All right, let's talk about a phrase we hear all the time, but maybe don't always stop to think about. Public sector governance. I know it sounds a little dry, right? But stick with me, because this is the invisible operating system running in the background of our daily lives. It's what shapes our schools, our healthcare, our roads, basically our entire society. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and make sense of it all.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll get the lay of the land with the three big sectors of the economy. Then we'll zoom right into the public sector itself. After that, we'll look at how it plays by a different set of rules, explore some of the weird hybrid organizations out there, and then tackle the messy world of politics. Finally, we'll tie it all together with the big idea of the social contract. Let's dive in.
Okay, first step, beyond business. To really get a handle on the public sector, you have to see where it fits in the grand scheme of things. See, most economies today aren't just one thing. They're what we call a mixed economy.
And what's a mixed economy? Well, think of it like a team with three totally different kinds of players. You've got the private sector, that's all about business and profit. Then there's the third sector, your charities and nonprofits. And then the star of our show, the public sector. This is the part that handles all the big foundational stuff that society is built on.
And this table just lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? The private sector's goal is to generate profit. Simple. The third sector is all about providing social benefits. But the public sector? Its whole reason for being is to deliver the essential goods and services we all depend on, like schools and hospitals. Each one has its own lane and its own crucial job to do.
So let's zoom in on the public sector. We know its job is to deliver public goods, but what does that really mean in practice? And just how massive is this part of our economy? The numbers might actually shock you.
The way to think about it is that the public sector is the ultimate gap filler. It handles the things that for-profit businesses either can't do or, more importantly, shouldn't do. I mean, you wouldn't want a fire department that only puts out fires for paying subscribers, right? That's why the state steps in. And when we talk about scale, wow. In most developed countries, government spending through the public sector is over 40% of the entire country's economic output. Let that sink in for a second. In some places, it's over half. We're talking about a colossal amount of money and resources flowing through these institutions. It's not just about money either. It's a huge employer. In a country like the United Kingdom, for instance, about a quarter of the entire workforce is in the public sector. That's 1 in every 4 jobs. Think about it. Teachers, nurses, civil servants, millions of people whose work touches every single community. Okay, on to our next section. Different goals, different rules. This is where things get really interesting. If the public sector isn't driven by profit, what is it driven by? How does it measure success? To figure that out, we have to look at its unique operating system.
This slide really gets to the heart of it. In a private company, you know who the boss is, the shareholders, and the goal is clear, make them money. But in the public sector, who's the principal? Well, it's us. It's the taxpayers who fund the whole thing, and the citizens who use the services. The goal isn't profit, it's to deliver on a shared purpose. So, if you can't use profit as your yardstick, what do you use? Well, often performance is measured against these 3 guiding principles, known as the 3 E's.
Let's break these down real quick. Economy is about spending wisely, not wasting our money. Efficiency is getting the most bang for our buck. But effectiveness, that's the real test. Is the organization actually doing what it's supposed to do? It's no good efficiently building a bridge to nowhere, right? You need all 3.
Now, of course, the real world is never that neat and tidy. The lines between these sectors get blurry, and you end up with some really fascinating hybrid organizations that live in the shades of gray. And a classic example of this is the QuANGO. Yeah, I know, it's a ridiculous-sounding acronym, but the idea is pretty important. It's an organization funded by the government, but it's set up to be independent and free from direct political meddling.
And this creates what you might call the QuANGO dilemma. On one hand, you want experts making decisions without politicians interfering for short-term political gain. That makes sense. But on the other hand, who do they answer to? If they're independent, how do you hold them accountable when they're spending our tax money? It's a real balancing act.
All right, let's pull the lens back again. Because these public organizations don't exist in a bubble. They're constantly being pushed and pulled by the messy, complicated world of politics and a whole web of stakeholders with competing demands.
This brings us to one of the most fundamental questions in any democracy. With so many different groups and so many different interests, who actually gets their voice heard? Who gets to shape public policy?
Well, one of the most obvious answers is lobby groups. These are organizations whose entire job is to influence politicians and laws to benefit their own special interest. And the big question that always hangs over lobbying is, does the group with the most money get the most influence? But it's so much bigger than just lobbying. The relationships are just fundamentally more complex. And a huge reason for that is how they're funded. A business gets money from customers who choose to pay. The public sector is funded by taxes, which are mandatory. That changes everything. And this is the constant struggle. You've got taxpayers who have to pay for services they might never even use. You've got the service users who depend on them. You've got politicians trying to juggle budgets and elections. You've got powerful lobby groups. And then you have the stakeholders who don't have a loud voice at all. Trying to find a fair balance between all these competing claims. That's the incredibly hard work of public governance.
So, let's bring it all home with our final section. We're going to tie all of this together with a huge idea, one that's been around for centuries, but is still at the heart of it all: the social contract. This isn't just some dusty old theory. The social contract is the unwritten deal that exists between the people and the government. It's the basic understanding that we agree to be governed in exchange for protection, order, and the benefits of a functioning society. It's why this whole system exists in the first place. And here's the absolute bottom line. The whole thing only works if people believe the system is fair. Taxpayers have to feel they're getting value for their money, not being taken for a ride. And service users have to feel they're being treated with dignity and getting what they need. Public governance, at its core, is the constant, difficult, essential act of maintaining that feeling of fairness. And that leaves us with one final thought. This social contract isn't some fixed document from the past. It's a living thing. It's constantly being debated, challenged, and rewritten with every election, every new policy, every public protest. So the question isn't just how it works, but what part you'll play in shaping it. Now that you know the rules of the game, how are you going to play?